Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Past Perfect Tense Part 2. In my last video, I explained many ways that the past perfect tense is used in American English, and this is Part 2, and it will explain even more ways. Are you ready? Listen to the conversation. How did you do on the math test? I got a C+. Really? I know you can do better than that. I agree, because if I had studied harder, I would have gotten a higher grade. Now, let's find the past perfect tense in the conversation. First, the woman asks, "How did you do on the math test?" And the man replies, "I got a C+." Now, so we can look at this first and see that the woman is asking him about a past event. And this was the math test, right? She says, "How did you do?" And the man answers, "I got a C+." Okay, so this is the past tense. And then we go to the second part of the conversation. And the woman says, "Really? I know you can do better than that." And the man responds, "I agree, because if I had studied harder, I would have gotten a higher grade." Now we can see where the past perfect tense is used here, and this is a conditional. This is actually the third conditional. If you're a little bit unsure of conditionals, look at my videos on conditionals, but I'll explain a little bit here. So first, remember, the past perfect tense is talking about two actions that happened in the past. One happened before the other, and we use the past perfect tense to describe exactly which one happened first. So when the man uses the third conditional here and says, "If I had studied harder, I would have gotten a higher grade," he's saying that the first action in the past, in his hypothetical past, right? It's not a real past. He's saying what would have happened. Okay, so he says that if I had studied harder, that's the first action in the past. And then he says, I would have gotten. All right, that's the second action in the past in his hypothetical situation. Again, this is a little bit confusing if you're not too sure of the third conditional, but this is exactly how it works. Okay, and this is the structure of the third conditional. We have the past perfect tense, right, in the if clause. Okay, the if is the condition. And then we have the result, all right, is I would have gotten. It's always would plus have plus the past participle of the verb, all right? So you can see how we use the past perfect in the third conditional, all right? Let's look at two more examples to make it a little bit more clear for you. All right. So the first one is, if you had told me you needed a ride, I would have picked you up on the way to school. In this case, we use the past perfect again in the condition, which is if you had told me, right? Before, this is what it means. It means before you went to school. If you had told me. Right? And then the result would have been, I would have picked you up on the way to school. Okay, so you can see it, right? You can see that past perfect is the first action that happened in the past. Of course, this is an if, right? This is another third conditional. And then the result, that second action, is would have being picked up at school. All right, now let's see the next one. It reads, you would have gotten wet if it had rained. Now, if you know a little bit about conditionals, you can flip them around. Depends on how you want to say it. All right, they're both okay. So in this case, the person says you would have gotten wet. And what is the condition? If it had rained. Okay, had rained is the past perfect tense. All right, you see, that's the first thing that would have happened in this situation. All right. And then if it had rained, you would have gotten wet. You see how it works? Okay. Now, listen to another conversation with another use of the past perfect. Hi, Kate. Were you in chemistry class today? Yeah, Margot. Why do you ask? Well, I was wondering if Dr. Cornwell mentioned anything about our final exams. Did he? Yes, he said that he hadn't finished grading all of the exams yet, and that's all he said about it. Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, let's find the past perfect tense in the conversation. When Margot asks, well, I was wondering if Dr. Cornwell mentioned anything about our final exams. Did he? And then Kate replies, yes, he said that he hadn't finished grading all of the exams yet. In this conversation, Margot is asking if Dr. Cornwell mentioned anything about the final exams that they had taken. And then Kate replies with reported speech, and she uses the past perfect tense when she says, he said that he hadn't finished grading all of the exams yet. Now, I haven't done reported speech yet in any videos, and I intend to do that very, very soon. Just take a look at the examples, and you can see where the past perfect is used. And more importantly, take a look at the structure. You can see in the first part, it's always like in number one, Dr. Cornwell said, okay? You get that first part, and then we have that he hadn't finished grading all of the exams yet. Now, that part of the sentence, which is that he hadn't finished grading all of the exams yet, that is a noun clause, which actually is the object of the sentence. So we have our subject, which is Dr. Cornwell. Then we have the verb, which is said. And then we have our noun clause. And in the noun clause, we see our past perfect being used. Okay? And that's really how you're going to see the past perfect used with reported speech. We can see the same thing in number two. Bobby said, right? That's the first part, subject, verb. Then we have our noun clause, that Ron had taken Japanese lessons before. And we can see our had taken in there. That's our past perfect. And then the third one, Alicia said, right? We have our subject, verb. Then we have our noun clause, that Jackie had arrived on Friday. Okay? Had arrived, that's our past perfect again. All right? Okay, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. In my next video, I'm going to do a test video on tenses. All right, so remember what I always say, keep practicing. See you next time.